price or gross value in money. So for example, a gross sales of 50,000 pesos will incur a 6,000 pesos value added tax. Next, a zero-rated transaction. A zero-rated sale is a taxable transaction for VAT purposes but shall not result in any output tax. In short, a zero VAT rate. However, the input tax on purchases related to the zero-rated sale shall be available as tax credit or refund. The most common example of these are export sale transactions. Moving over, the last classification of VAT is the VAT exempt transaction. These refer to the sale transaction that is not subject to VAT and the seller is not allowed to any tax credit on its purchases. Thus, no output VAT and no input VAT. To give you an example, the following are the most common VAT exempt transactions. Sale or importation of agricultural and marine food product in their original state. Sale of drugs and medicines prescribed for diabetes, high cholesterol, and hypertension. And also, sale or lease of goods and services to a senior citizen and persons with disability. So what is the invoicing requirement of a VAT registered person? A VAT registered person shall issue a VAT invoice for every sale, barter, or exchange of goods and properties, and a VAT official receipt for every lease of goods or properties and for every sale of service. So what are the information that must be contained in the VAT invoice or VAT official receipt? If the buyer is a VAT registered taxpayer, and if the transaction is more than 1,000 pesos, the following information are needed: the name, the address, PIN, and business style of the buyer. However, for a principal invoice or receipt to be valid for claiming of input tax, all information must be shown as provided in the examples. Moving to the most important part of this orientation, we will go over on how you can fill up your VAT returns. So for illustration, for the month of January 2021, Juan A. De la Cruz, a VAT registered individual, has a total VATable sales of 300,000 pesos and a VATable purchases of 200,000 pesos. So, compute for the VAT payable. Let's first compute the output tax. Gross VATable sales of 300,000 pesos times 12% would result to a 36,000 pesos output tax. For your input tax, gross VATable purchases of 200,000 pesos times 12% would come up to a 24,000 input tax. So your output tax of 36,000 pesos less your input tax of 24,000 pesos would result to a 12,000 pesos VAT payable. So how can we fill up the return? In your 2550M return, fill in your gross sales of 300,000 on items 12A and 16A. And also, fill your output tax of 36,000 on items 12B and 16B. Next, fill in your gross purchases of 200,000 pesos on items 18E and 18P. And fill your input tax of 24,000 on items 18F, 19, and 21. Lastly, fill the item 22, 24, and 26 of your monthly VAT payable of 12,000 pesos. And also, don't forget to affix your name and signature on item 27. So moving to another illustration, for the first quarter of 2021, Juan A. de la Cruz, a VAT registered individual, has a total VATable sale of 900,000 pesos and a VATable purchases of 600,000 pesos. He also paid a total of 24,000 pesos for the monthly VAT returns, that is for January and February. Compute the VAT payable. So again, your gross VATable sales of 900,000 pesos times 12% would result to a 108,000 output tax. Your gross VATable purchases of 600,000 pesos times 12% would come up to a 72,000 pesos input tax. So your output tax of 108,000 less input tax of 72,000 would result to a 36,000 VAT payable. Less your monthly VAT payment for January and February of 24,000 to arrive at the quarterly VAT payable of 12,000 pesos. So in your 2550Q return, fill in your gross sales of 900,000 on items 15A and 19A. Fill in also your output tax of 108,000 on items 15B and 19B. Next, fill in your gross purchases of 600,000 on items 21E and 21P. And also, your input tax of 72,000 on items 21F, 22, and 24. Next, fill the item 26A of your monthly VAT payment of 24,000. Then lastly, fill item 27 and 29 of the quarterly VAT payable of 12,000. Again, don't forget to affix your name and signature on item 30. So when to file your VAT returns? For monthly VAT returns, the deadline is not later than the 20th day following the end of each month. And for quarterly returns, within 25 days following the close of the taxable quarter. That's all for VAT. Thank you for listening. Sama-sama sa hamon ng panahon, buwis ko para sa Pilipino.
Utak at puso, ang buwis ko'y